And hey, welcome back, folks. I'm Frizz, and this is some Risk of Rain, and obviously, because this is me rambling about Pathfinder. It's nice for people to be here. It's always fun to stream. Please let me know if the audio is working, or rather that the audio balancing is okay. I never know for streams. I never know in general, but streams in particular I'm a lot less familiar with. Also, I'm gonna be quiet for just like a couple of seconds. 1 second. Oh, right. Okay, nice to hear. Sounds like it's good. Shark? Shark, gonna go with that. Okay. Okay. With that out of the way, let's play some Risk of Rain. And obviously, talk about Pathfinder. Because, oh my god, has there been some announcements since the last time that I streamed. And yeah, a lot of the whole remaster situation is definitely in a video that is available for members. But oh boy, that is a situation and a half. I'm just gonna give a real quick summary of what this game is for people who don't know. Risk of Rain is a roguelike. You just run around stages, kill enemies to get gold, which then you spend to get items, which have, like, sometimes exponential, but just infinitely stacking absurdity. Which, it's a lot of fun. It's a very good brain for me to just turn off my brain and talk about Pathfinder. But, yeah. So, God, the remaster for 2e is huge. I was really not expecting Paizo to announce anything before PaizoCon. It is my entirely without evidence or unsubstantiated theory that Paizo decided to announce the remaster early, and they were going to announce it at PaizoCon, because Wizards of the Coast, you know, hired Pinkertons to go and raid a Magic the Gathering YouTuber's house. So they decided to take advantage of the comparatively good publicity. I have no evidence for it. Outside of, it's really, really weird that they would announce something this significant not at PaizoCon. Especially since they said we're getting more information about what exactly is going to be in the remaster at PaizoCon. Like, this feels like the big PaizoCon announcement for Paizo. So or one of the big. I'm still expecting them to announce another rulebook. But, like, it feels, I was not expecting it to be announced, and I am very happy with what's in there. I don't know if I've made this pretty clear at all on the channel, but I don't like alignment. I am happy that it's disappearing with what seems like a improvement taking its place. Yeah, PaizoCon is later this month. So, like, it is weird that it got announced, which is why I'm thinking, like, did they announce it early? I would be a bit surprised, because this doesn't feel like the kind of thing that you pull the trigger early on. This really just doesn't feel that way. Because this is something that they've definitely been working on for a couple of months. So just pulling the trigger early and announcing it feels like something that they wouldn't do, but I don't know why they would announce it now and not at PaizoCon, when people are, like, looking for... Oh, okay, 2 copies of the same use item. Good use of 25 gold. I just don't know why else they would release or announce it now. But they did, and it's sick. I have many, many high hopes, and none of them are substantiated. Yeah, I mean, maybe so they can... Yeah, it would make sense, at least a bit of sense, if they were doing it for, like, a... We're announcing it, and then we're going to be clarifying, like, questions at PaizoCon. So this would give people time to, like, come up with what kind of questions they want to ask. That could be a reason for it. But even then, it still feels weird. Because I feel like... I don't know. It just came out of nowhere, is the thing. And often it feels like if you're trying to build, like, hype for something, you want it to... you want people to kind of expect that something is coming. Because then there's going to be more attention on it. But then you have to actually hold up to the people's expectations. But yeah, I don't know why they did. I'm happy. God, Witches and alchemists are going to greatly appreciate the rework, I'm guessing. Because they are in a bit of a mess. In their current state. Not that they're bad, it's just that they're a mess. Which I guess could mean that they are bad comparatively to other Pathfinder 2e classes, but like they're still perfectly usable, which is not bad by the standards of other Pathfinder editions. Shifter is atrocious in Pathfinder 1e. So oh, martial progression on alchemists. I don't know what's gonna happen with the alchemist. I'm not gonna lie. I have no fucking idea. Because they specifically called out the alchemist as getting like a complete, like basically Oracle, Champion, and Witch were going to be getting like adjustments and tweaks more than other classes will be, because I think every class is going to get touched. But they said that Alchemist is just going to be completely reworked entirely. So I have no fucking idea what that's going to look like. I hope for like a more martial progression. What I'd like is for different... See, I think that it will be hard to figure out, or I don't know. There's a lot of different ways that you could go with an alchemist, because as it is right now, they're basically just non-magical prepared spellcasters. Oh, and also Guinea Greason. I try to have high quality ramblings, considering that's most of what I do. My videos are just scripted ramblings. But, like, basically, right now they are, like, prepared / spontaneous spellcasters that just don't cast spells and instead use alchemical items, which is interesting. It's just that a lot of alchemical items are less objectively strong than like other spells of their levels, but what makes the alchemist so good is that they can just pull whatever they want at any moment out of their bag with quick alchemy, which makes it so alchemists, oh yeah, they actually have some pretty cool tools. The downside being you need to know what all of them are. So it's not like you're a wizard and you only really need to know the spells in your spell book whenever you prepare them. As an alchemist, you kind of need to know, like, well, is there any niche alchemical item that I could pull out of my bag here that would be useful for this situation? because you basically can always do that. Which I think is a interesting, like, way to make a class. I don't necessarily think it's good, because it's not new player friendly in the slightest. It's not even like medium player friendly. I think I would struggle significantly to play an alchemist like optimally. I think probably the easiest way to go about the alchemist, like as in the remake for the alchemist class in the Pathfinder 2e remake, is to make them into more of a traditional martial class, still be intelligence based. So we're basically taking a lot of inspiration from the inventor, because that is a intelligence and crafting based class that works. So taking inspiration from them. But I think the main thing that alchemists like need more than anything is to basically always be the better people to be using their items. So like, yeah, it is actually more like basically passing off a bomb to your fighter is probably going to be more accurate if they have like a good dex, and maybe even if they don't, or putting a poison onto your fighter's sword or your barbarian's axe, they're going to be more likely to hit than you. So you can give other people really good tools, or really good if you pick the right ones, but you're not necessarily the one using them. So I think the best way to take the general, like, current, oh my god, to take the general, like, alchemist that we have now would be to take the current methodologies and then give the alchemist, like, just as good or maybe, like, slightly lower proficiencies, but then just bonuses whenever they're using their own items. So, like, give mutagenist alchemists a boost whenever they are under the effects of one of their mutagens. So they are just better characters whenever they are under the effects of the mutagen. So it's like kind of how a swashbuckler is better when they're using panache. I don't know how you'd do that, but some way of doing that, or like, I don't know what you do for a toxicologist. First things first, make it so they can use poison on enemies that are immune to poison, so they don't, so they could actually use their main abilities against probably like half of the enemies in the game, because so many enemies are immune to poison. Yeah. And yeah, the War Priest Cleric definitely does need some work. Paizo didn't call out War Priest or Cleric as, or Cleric or War Priest in particular, as getting attention, but I don't think that that means that they would not get any. Because the main problem with War Priest is, as someone who has never played in a game with a War Priest, and entirely based on speculation and just looking at the class, it seems like the main issue with War Priest is in proficiencies. Of just like, they don't have the martial proficiencies to really hit things in melee, and people want to cast spells and hit things in melee. And I think that proficiencies are definitely something that can be approached in something without, basically, I'm expecting like the champion and the witch and the champion, witch, oracle, and alchemist were called out explicitly in the announcement, because those are getting big changes that are like big mechanical changes in kind of how they play. But I don't think that something like the War Priest was called out, because it's not getting like a big identity change. but I'm expecting that they're still gonna be adjusting them. Just like, they're not gonna say, oh yeah, our brand new remaster project in 4 different books. You won't believe it. War priests are getting master weapon proficiency, because that doesn't make for like as interesting of an announcement. And like, that's not like advertising material. So I expect that it will be in there, even though it has not been currently called out. I believe the general consensus on the meta errata, Nicholas, is good. I'm fucking loving it. Admittedly, I'm biased because it gives me a lot more stuff to talk about in videos. But I also am a fan of all of the changes mechanically, and I think that pretty much all of them are warranted. Although I do want to see what they're doing with focus points. That's big, because I don't know what they're doing. I think focus points are fine as they are now. So I actually love focus points as they are now. So I want to see how they're gonna approach that, because focus points are really cool. I really love the system and what they add to focus, like to spellcasters. And to non-spellcasters, because oh my god, focus points are such a better system, or is such a better system than like Key from 1E and 5E monks. Like, god, focus points make so much more sense than for like rangers and monks and champions than like, oh well, yeah, you can cast spells, you can hardly do it, but you have a couple of them every day, and it's like, that feels weird, where focus points are just natural. Like, yeah. Oh, I do generally think that spell focus points are better than spellcasting, but I don't know how you would use, I don't know how exactly you would approach using just focus points to recreate what people want out of a wizard. Like, would you just have different pools of focus points? So you would have, like, I have my necromancy focus points, I have my universal spell focus points, and my evocation focus points? Or what? But I do think that Paizo, in, like, 2035, whenever they make Pathfinder 3rd edition, I feel like Paizo's not going to have Vancian casting. Just catching up on messages because I have a lot of them to read, and also am playing a game that requires a lot of dodging. Yeah, the main reason why Paizo's doing this, like, I think objectively the main reason why Paizo's making this is not because Paizo has to keep on making out new books, but because Paizo wants to legally separate from Wizards of the Coast and the OGL. Because who knows what Wizards is going to do in 5 months or in 5 years. And Pathfinder 2e is the lifeblood of Paizo. As good as I genuinely do think Starfinder is, it just doesn't sell as much as 2e. So they need some legal distance, as it were. And I don't think that, like, I don't really think that, unless the remaster is, like, fucking incredible, I don't think that it's gonna be a huge seller, because a lot of the core player base is already gonna have their core rulebooks and their game mastery guides. So, like, I don't think that this was a decision made through monetary greed. I mean, depending on how you want to look at it, perhaps, I would not agree, that wanting to be legally distinct is monetary greed, but I would vehemently disagree from that. But I genuinely do think that that is the main reason why they're doing it. And then they're also taking the opportunity to address problems that they would not be able to fix using more, like, conventional books or erratas. Oh, the mega errata isn't out yet. It is... We don't have a huge amount of information of exactly what is going to be in it. The most we have... Basically, there's a blog post on Paizo's website that contains a fair amount of information, and then there have been a couple of streams with Paizo developers that I am not big enough to have regarding some of the changes and whatnot. And basically, we have a basic idea, but a lot of it is like, well, you can't have owlbears in the bestiary because that's a copyrighted term. Or rather, that is a term that was previously allowed to be used under the OGL, and as recent events have shown, the OGL is not as steady as it probably should be. So, yeah. Yeah, I haven't really... I'm not worried about power creep. Because generally Paizo has been the feats that Paizo has been like adding to in new books or whatnot aren't like objectively stronger. The only difference, yeah, being alchemical items, because that's not power creep, that's correcting power. That's helping them be on the level that they probably should have been from the start. Which I am all here for. Let's see. Something Pinkertons, yeah. Like, it's one thing to say, oh, well, maybe Wizards of the Coast should, like, oh, maybe they won't be that bad in the future, and then they hire Pinkertons, you're like, oh. Yeah, maybe we should get as much of a distance as we can from these people. But, I expect that most likely what the focus points changes are going to be is something like, if you have a, like, if you get a focus point, you have one focus point up to level, like, 10 or something. No matter how many focus spells you have one focus point. And then, at, like, level 10, you get 2, but you automatically get 2 back whenever you refocus. And then, at some other level, you get 3 focus points, and then you get 3 focus points whenever you refocus. Because there is that not clarification, but confusion of how does refocusing work, because, yeah, no, you don't. Like, if you spend 2 focus points in a fight, you can only get 1 focus point back, and that is not something that everyone plays with, so just cleaning that up, I think, would be enough. But I don't think that that would be enough for Paizo to call it out as something that they're making changes to. So, just, again, reading things. Let's see. Yeah, degree of witch changes. I don't... I am kind of torn on the witch. I used to think it was pretty bad, now I think that it just isn't good. Because that's an important distinction. I just think it could use a lot of clarification of identity. Of, like, what does Paizo want you to be when you're a witch? Because as it is right now, it isn't super clear. Like, are you hard focusing on... Like, are you supposed to be focusing on your hex spells, or your familiar, or lessons, or... that kind of clarification, I think, would be helpful. I don't think that it is remotely as deserving of a total rework like The Alchemist. I mean, you can always make the dragon types you want. I don't know if Paizo is going to just be like removing OGL monsters and then just renaming them, so like bear owls instead of owl bears. I don't expect it would be that obvious, but like some weird fantasy name for owl bears instead of owl bear. I don't think it's going to be something like that, but I don't know what they're going to be doing for it. And of course, there are already going to be the existing stat blocks for owl bears out there, and you can just use that. Like, they're still on Archives of Nethys, and they will still be on Archives of Nethys. They confirmed that today, I think. Yeah, like, my problem with The Witch is that if you read, like, a wizard and you look at wizard feats, you're kind of like, oh, I know the kind of identity of this class and what it's trying to be, but Witch doesn't have that as much to me. It's trying to cover so many different types of Witch that it doesn't, like, it feels unfocused, which is, to a degree, kind of a problem I have with sorcerers, but it's not as much, because we're, like, us sorcerers just don't have many, like, arcane feats or primal feats, because they're a flexible spellcaster, and witches kind of suffer from that too. But just, like, if it was, like, 80% on familiars, and it's like, oh shit, I should really be, like, focusing on familiars and all that, then I would like the class more because it has a more, like, unified identity. That is kind of just a, that's very much a me personal thing that I don't necessarily know if it is a problem or if it's just a thing that I like about, the way that Pathfinder's done a lot of other classes, where it's like, oh yeah, no, it does make it clear to you how like the game wants this class to be played, and then there's flexibility to deviate from that. Like, I've had a friend theory craft a Laughing Shadow Magus that never spell strikes, and I think it would be totally viable. And that's really interesting, but from reading the class, it's pretty clear. Yeah, no. The class wants you to spell strike as much as you can. So that's really my... Like, I think witches totally work. They just need more, like, work to get them to the level of other prepared casters. Like, I think the witch would not be nearly in as rough of a place as it is if they had the same amount of spell slots per day as a wizard. Okay. Raptor Grizzly? Oh, Raptor Grizzly is perfect, because then it isn't just bears. Or no. Raptor Grizzly would mean that specifically every Raptor Grizzly has the body of a grizzly bear. Not any bear. It is specifically a grizzly. And then, but then it means that the head could be any raptor. Which is funny. And it also opens up the possibility for dinosaur owlbears. Because dinosaurs, like, a velociraptor bear. Also, completely unrelated to anything actually likely to happen in the remaster, but give us elevated or awakened bears. Is it elevated bears or awakened bears from Starfinder? They're just a race in Starfinder that is literally just someone cast awaken animal on a bunch of bears once, and now they are populated enough that they are a playable like race in Starfinder, which is hilarious. They're also large-sized, which would probably complicate things because Starfinder is way more comfortable with doing crazy stuff like large-sized species. Just reading up to see. Yeah, no, it doesn't help that a lot of lessons are bad. Healing lesson is like too good. It's life boost is such an amazing, amazing focus spell that all of the other ones have to compete with it. Also, here's another thing that I've been thinking of for a really long time, but I don't think I've ever actually, like, said it out loud in a video or something. Alchemists, if they stick with a more, like, pseudo-caster kind of style for alchemists, which is what they are now, then they should totally, like, alchemists should be the class that gets legendary class DCs. So, like, I don't know why they aren't already. Wizards get legendary spell DCs, why don't alchemists get legendary class DC? And I'm expecting that more than likely, one potential way that they could take focus spells, which would explain a little bit more of why the Oracle is called out specifically as getting changes. And I wouldn't like this personally. I would not, I'm not advocating for this change. I am, crap, there goes the watch. That sucks. That was a good source of damage for me. But like, what words? Jesus. Oh, well, okay. Maybe alchemists and kineticists should get legendary class DC, because they are both classes that function almost entirely off of their class DC. Like a toxicologist really wants that legendary. Because otherwise that's just sad. Oh yeah, but my idea for like one way that they could potentially take oh no. I don't have much healing, do I? Just like 2 leeching seeds. And I'm up against the DOT boss. Or actually no. This isn't the DOT boss. Imp Overlords are. That was close. Okay, just a drone. Got it. But basically, one way that I could see them taking focus points is turning them basically into just like once per 10-minute spells. I wouldn't want that, but it would make more sense why they're saying, oh yeah, the Oracle is getting changed, because if you did that, then the Oracle curse would need to work differently. I don't want that. I like focus points as they are of a limited but not super limited magical resource. I don't want that, but it could be a way to do it. Yeah, just getting 1 focus point after combat, or like you get 1 focus point back every 10 minutes, or something. I don't think, I absolutely do not believe that they would make it to, or turn focus points into after combat, because then that breaks all focus point healing in the game, and I am like 99% certain that like constant out of combat healing with focus points is a very, very intentional decision that Paizo made, and I doubt that they would like try and get rid of it by just making focus points an out of combat thing, so maybe just every 10 minutes. I don't like that I'm having to use this here. Admittedly, I did summon these guys. I did volunteer for summoning the incredibly dangerous brass bells. I brought this upon myself. If it isn't the consequences of my own actions. Yeah, but the thing with the part about like medicine already kind of like invalidates focus point out of combat healing is yeah, medicine definitely can be better than focus points for out of combat healing, but that means that someone in every party would have to like spec into medicine, and medicine is only better if you have continual recovery and also are increasing your medicine proficiency level, and also especially if you take ward medic. So like you really have to like, I don't think Paizo would want to make a change to the system that enforces that level of party specialization, like regularity, where it's like, oh yeah, no, for a party to live or have a lengthy adventuring day, they need a medic or medicine specialist. That just doesn't feel like a Paizo move for 2e. Or rather, I don't see Paizo as saying, oh, well, you have a champion, meaning you get 6 hit points per spell level after every combat of healing, and that's it. Without, like, other big adjustments. Like, basically, you can currently heal up to full given an hour at level 1 with a paladin or just any other champion in the party. You just probably can do it faster with a medic. But like changing focus points to be after a combat gain 1 focus point back makes it so it's not that, where you like, it just really, really limits the healing in any party that does not have someone who is increasing their proficiency in medicine. And I don't think that Paizo wants to encourage that. Skill feats are, in a way, kind of free, but at the same time, they aren't. Like, as an example, I am currently playing the resident medic in a party. I'm the person who's taking all the medicine feats. And the first time that I took I didn't take a medicine feat at level 2 because I wasn't an expert in medicine. And then I took a medicine feat at levels 3 and 4 using my general feat. But otherwise, if I didn't use my general feat, then it would have taken until level 6. Which, it's like, you only get, unless you're a rogue, or an investigator, or a swashbuckler, you only get 10 skill feats from levels 1 to 20. And I don't like the idea that in every party there's going to be one person who's spent at least 2 skill feats, the same feats in every party. If anything, I could see Paizo taking the approach of buffing magical out-of-combat healing because medicine is so much better. Because it's not like healing up to full quickly is overpowered, it's just, like, kind of expected in the system, and there's currently one definitive best way of approaching it, which is something that they could approach with the remaster. Nice to see you, Hector. Let's get moving. I don't have high enough damage. Yeah, it also gets rid of conditions. It's the fastest way to get rid of wounded. So like I don't see Paizo nerfing medicine, or basically words. God, I just walked off. I don't see Paizo nerfing anything, and there is still the difference between medicine and magical out-of-combat healing. So I would see them approach that as buffing out-of-combat healing some way. I don't know how they would do that without making it busted, but I would see them as being more likely to take that approach. Yeah, like, nerfing medicine would kill a lot of people, so I don't expect Paizo to do that. Like, Paizo, in general, seems to be going more in the approach of, oh, crap, I actually have to take a call real quick. That is very important, so I will, be back in just a moment, hopefully, but I'll be right back. All right, so I'm back. I just, yeah. Got a call about a potential job, so felt like I probably should take that. Yeah. But, let me just catch up on what people are saying. There are other reasons why investigators are the real best medics in the game. Or investigators and or Church Alchemists. For different reasons. Church Alchemists past a certain level, I think, have the better out of combat healing because of perpetual infusions, and being able to make healing potions with that. But investigators have stupid battle medicines. So yeah, I don't know. Out of combat healing, I feel like as the system currently is, magical out of combat healing is the most obvious way to heal up out of combat. Because I feel like most people aren't going... I feel like most people are going to see, upon first impressions with the system, I know that I did, was looking and seeing, oh, so, like, Lay on Hands heals 6 hit points at level 1. Oh, Treat Wounds takes 10 minutes also, and it heals 2d8, and it isn't guaranteed, and then you're immune for an hour. So, oh, you can just refocus and cast Lay on Hands again, but you can't do that with battle medicine, so, oh, that's the way that you're supposed to heal. So, I don't know. That I expect Paizo to go more in that direction rather than making medicine worse. But yeah, also I hope that the other categories of investigator get a bit better. Or I guess they aren't necessarily bad, it's just that I can never remember what they're called. It's not forensic acumen investigators, because that's the skill feat that they added that they get. But that's not the name of the actual type of investigator. But those are just fantastic healers. And then the alchemical studies, investigators way better now that they're the, like, investigative coffee, or whatever it's called, came out in the treasure vault, which is just, like, coffee that gives you a bonus on a certain type of recalled knowledge, and also boosts, or turns your, damage from Devise a Stratagem from d6s to d8s. So, like, alchemical studies, forensic medicine, not forensic acumen. Forensic acumen is the feat that lets you be better at, like, autopsies. But the... yeah, basically, having a lot more alchemical items, shockingly, made the alchemical studies investigator better. And yet, the problem that... I have enough items. It's not going to, kill me. It could be close, though. This is one of my favorite stupid items in the game. It just keeps on eating all of your other items. And depending on what it eats, it can kill you. Because it could take away, like, all of your mobility items, and then you just can't dodge. Methodology. Yes, but, like, interrogation requires, basically, that your GM designs stuff for it, and then even then it isn't, like, particularly good. I don't think it would be too far to let them use intelligence instead of charisma for particular skill actions. Like, when relating to the target of your investigation, still keeping the thing where you can make someone the target of your investigation after a minute of conversation with them, you can use intelligence instead of charisma for, like, deception checks to lie, and like diplomacy checks to get to either like gather information about your target or to make an impression or a request from your target, because like they don't have a lot of other huge incentives outside of the normal ones that everyone has to like be good at charisma. Funnily enough, battle medicine doesn't actually remove, at least from my memory, battle medicine doesn't remove the wounded condition, because battle medicine is not treat wounds. It uses the same healing and DCs as treat wounds, but it is distinct from treat wounds for some reason, which is why some feats like mortal healing specifically call out, well, combat medicine, right? Unless I'm thinking of something different. I might be just misremembering things. That is totally something that I will do. Not misremembering, misinterpreting or misreading. Oh god, I've been shooting my own beetles because they look exactly the same. Where are the other void enemies? 7 more? Where? What? I guess. Sometimes I don't like the DLC because it adds these and they're just awful. Sometimes. I may not have a good run, and that might be contributing slightly. Oh, they're over there. Got it. Oh, got it. Yeah. No. Like, the only real ways to remove wounded are get to full or treat wounds. So, I don't know, it feels like... it feels weird that healing magic doesn't get rid of it when getting basic medical treatment does. Where it's like, oh, but like, for a level 18 character who's wounded 1, getting a 6 level heal that will heal you for 80 points of damage won't get rid of wounded if it doesn't get you to full. But like, a basic train DC treat wounds does? That heals like 5 hit points? I don't know. I will forever find small things to wonder, like, hey, I wonder, is that how it should work? Little bits. Oh yeah, magic is so much better at Doomed. And Drained, actually. You can't get rid of Drained until, like, 15th level. Yeah, no. Heal is, Heal should be known by its better name of, Reset Button. No, try again. Give it another shot. Yeah, I guess some damage mitigation. Really, I need a ukulele. I just need AoE. I guess I also need mobility. I'll take the insta-kill chance, considering I have guaranteed crit already. Yeah. God, Divine Font is crazy. Oh, well, that's an item I didn't want the ego to get rid of. Oh. Alright, my tea is now done. Without a bunch of... Yeah. something kind of funny that has happened in multiple of the parties that I've been in. Mainly it was one. The Abominations Vault party that I played with. We did have a, like, forensic acumen, or not forensic acumen, like, forensic medicine or forensic methodology investigator, and it was hilarious, kind of, how everyone else was, like, pretty good at being on the front line. Like, we had an oracle, but they had a champion dedication, and then we had an armor inventor and a monk and a rogue barbarian, and everyone was pretty, like, chill. Okay, we're gonna do this methodically. We're probably gonna try and clear one floor of the Abomination Vaults a day, or because this group was insane and conserved resources like insane. But the instant anyone went after the investigator at the back, it was like, okay, highest level spell slot on this fool. Or, okay, everyone is gonna dogpile whoever attacked the healer, because if Thorn goes down, we all die. Because forensic methodology, battle medicine, master level DC, and then they ignore your temporary immunity to battle medicine and it's like, doctor's visitation to get next to you, battle medicine, then battle medicine again, heals a lot. It is another reset button. But it's just like, no one touches this incredibly squishy elven investigator, or everyone will dogpile them. I would be surprised if Witch uses anything other than intelligence. That's just kind of the way that witches tend to work in Pathfinder. Like, for example, like, there is a lot of, like, creepy kind of witch stuff that's pretty iconic for witches. But the way that that's generally been taken with 2e and 1e is, like, evil eye. Okay, so it's not you are just kind of intimidating naturally, it's that you look at someone and you magically make them horrified of you. Where that's kind of the way that Paizo tends to go, so I would be surprised if they end up using charisma for anything other than maybe a couple of, like, specific feats dedicated to that. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if witches do get an intimidation kind of feat, because that like makes sense. Like, barbarians have one of those. Like, that's not uncommon, and I wouldn't be hugely surprised if Paizo does that, but I don't think they're going to be casting charisma. That's a pretty big difference. If I was responsible for making a new witch, is the way that I would take to differentiate them from, the way that I would differentiate a witch from the wizard, or rather, if I basically had to focus on one thing to focus on for the witch, and I had a fair amount of creative freedom and didn't have to stick explicitly to everything that the current witch uses, I would probably take the approach of, I need to get rid of these guys because they're just gonna be a problem. One, yeah, give them good focus spells, but the main thing is that I would want witches thing to be that they're the sustaining spell class. Like, they have extra abilities when sustaining spells. Because all of the Witch Hex spells, all of, like, the default Witch Hex cantrips are focused, but they don't have any, like, real benefits to, like, the benefits that they have for focusing are getting the effects of their focus spell, not other stuff. And as it is, like, there isn't any way to, like, focus on sustaining. And I think I tossed this idea out in a comment at some point, but, like, imagine if your patron also gave you a unique sustain action. So, like, or maybe also lessons could give a unique sustain action in addition to a focus spell. So, like, words in my head are not working. For example, I think is it the Curse Witch? Whatever type of witch it is that gets Evil Eye. I can't remember the patron for Evil Eye. I think it's Curse. It might be Omen. Something like that. But, like, they could demoralize as part of sustaining a spell. Because that fits in with the theme well. And it also rewards them to get other sustaining spells. And gives them a bit of action compression and makes the turn a bit more interesting than just cast spell sustain. And also, like, witches are the only class in the game, I believe, that every witch has a sustain spell. Like, not every wizard is going to know a spell that requires being sustained, but every witch does, because every basic hex cantrip needs to be sustained, so rewarding that creates a more, like, mechanical identity for the classes, if that makes sense. I would say, well, the familiar is the way of... The familiar is the connection between you and the patron. Like, that is the main thing. Like, if you don't want a familiar, you can always play a wizard who was taught through their dreams arcane magic. And you just play super witchy. Yeah, and the other way to go about it is, if you want to play a witch without a familiar, is talk to your GM about either playing a Baba Yaga witch patron, or using Baba Yaga as your witch patron, even if you literally don't have Baba Yaga as your witch patron, or just using the inanimate object or animated object as your familiar, and then it isn't animated. Like, it sits in your bag, it is a book. And then you just, maybe you give it abilities that don't make it move, and you can represent in character as you doing something. Like, I forget, is there a familiar ability to let your familiar aid you on recall knowledge checks? Because if there is, yeah, give that to your book. You are not actually talking to your book. You're just referencing the book, and it gives you a bonus on your check. So, generally speaking, if you want to play a witch without a familiar, the easiest way is probably just reflavoring a familiar into different, like, different representations of what that is. Because what it is entirely dependent on you and your GM. It doesn't actually have to be a creature if that doesn't fit the character. Yeah, no, just play Kitsune with a pet rock. I desperately want to play Kitsune with a pet rock at some point. Just because I don't know where it's coming from. Like, why is that... one of the feats that Paizo decided to introduce. I don't know, but it's funny. Yeah, like, there's just a lot of ways to flavor witches, which I think is cool. But and it's definitely like a plus. Like, or even like, you don't have a familiar, you just have a very, very unwanted tag-along who your witch is constantly trying to get away from because, like, oh yeah, no, once I accepted the offer for like eldritch magic from beyond the stars as from my cursed patron, this cat showed up, but I fucking hate cats, so I keep on trying to like get away from them. Like, it doesn't have to be a wanted familiar. It just has to be a familiar. Like, that is just in general something that I try to do with basically all of the characters that I make, are the choices, like mechanical choices regarding them and like their life and all that, is that an intentional decision from them? Like, does your sorcerer pick what spells they learn on level up as a spontaneous caster, whose magic comes from their blood, or do they just get them? And then what is their opinion of them? So, like, a sorcerer who has a familiar from their connection to their, like, bloodline is like, oh, but did they want a pet? Did they want a really intelligent pet? Or are they stoked about it? Like, that kind of idea is always fun for me to think about, like, oh, but do they like this? And also, if they do like it, or if, like, you get a kind of questionable ability, why did they pick it? It's just a fun way that I like to think about my characters as I level them up. Oh, and that's really interesting about the... You know, with that information, it makes a lot more sense about the Star Orb. Because I think it's a Star Orb. I think the feat's called that? And it also makes a lot more sense that it has a higher level version, or higher level, like, feat that has as a prerequisite that's like, you cast Cloud Kill. It makes a lot more sense that that exists. I was just kind of confused. And regarding focus point changes, we did talk about that for a while. The general takeaway is we don't know exactly, but we don't know what the changes are going to be made. Generally, the system works well right now, so we don't know what the changes are going to be. But it could be something like how many focus points you have, like your maximum is tied to your level, but then you automatically refocus your entire pool. So you don't have to spend feats on it. That could be a way that Paizo's changing it, so it's just more intuitive. So you don't have to explain to new players about how, yeah, I know that you have 2 focus points and you're currently at 0, but you can't get back up to 2 focus points until tomorrow, because that isn't intuitive. It could be where you just, like, you could get a focus, like, each focus spell once every 10 minutes. I hope it isn't that. or it could be like behold the most anime character in Risk of Rain. But words, Jesus. Generally, I don't expect them to make huge changes because focus points are a good system. I expect them to make more sense for new players, is the general idea. Hopefully we learn more at PaizoCon. Or rather, I hope that they focus at least a bit on what they mean by changes to focus points at PaizoCon, because depending on what changes they make, or what they say about those changes, it might be something that can be implemented early. Because if it's something where it's like, oh yeah, you automatically increase your focus point maximum and focus point regeneration, then that means that I don't want to take those feats on characters now, and I can just, you know, beg my DMs to let me get that now. I'm not actually playing any characters that are high enough level to get those feats, but... Oh, so, now we have the, absolute guaranteed cause of the pandemic. That's wonderful. Yeah. I'm also interested to see how Paizo is going to be approaching the changes. I mean, I am all for alignment not existing. I have never been a fan of alignment. But I am curious to see how they're going to be approaching it in terms of setting. Because... I'd actually rather have this. Because I find the Outer Planes really interesting, even though I do find general, like, good versus evil stories to be... Or not good versus evil, but like, oh, the cosmic forces of good versus the causes, or like the forces of absolute evil. I just don't... Those aren't my kinds of stories. Because often they are very, very vague. And if there is that kind of story going on in the background, then it can kind of make other conflicts not as important if they aren't dealing with the big one going on in the back. But I still like the Outer Planes. I find them really interesting. So I just want to see how Paizo is going to be adjusting the setting, or how the setting is implemented. Yeah, no, like, yeah, you don't need to cast, like, Detect Evil to know that, that the Abyss is fucked up. You just need eyes. Actually, no, I think the Abyss is messed up enough that, any sensory organ will do. But, like, how are they gonna do that? Because, other... Like, I mean, they could just say it's evil, but now it's lowercase evil. Or, like, are they going to say that because the way that they're going to be doing, like, PC alignment replacement? It's not an alignment replacement, it's just a new system. A better system for actually representing morality. Where it's, like, tenets and anathema, basically what they're doing, what they've already been doing with deities. Are they gonna have, like, base principles that different planes operate on that actually kind of care about alignment? Or not alignment necessarily, but operate off of different rules to represent how that plane is different? It could be cool. Like, there are... Like, I don't know why this is the first thing that came into my head, but, like, as an example of what this could be for, like, a non-traditionally aligned plane, the plane of fire could have additional, like, rules that is basically how does this place work naturally. How does the plane of fire operate on its own? And it's like, oh yeah, fire burns easier, and various other elemental relations, and then other planes could have that, but on like more philosophical moral stuff, like hell could be power means absolute authority. That's not necessarily the best description of what hell is, but that's the first thing that comes to mind of like power is all that matters, or that kind of distinction, where that's just how things work unless you struggle against it. The same way that gravity exists on the material plane until you cast fly. So like, I don't know. That would be a way of doing it, of just like putting general rules out there to give like some kind of ties. But I don't think that Paizo's gonna do it that way. It's just gonna be more like, oh yeah, here's the description of the abyss. Yeah, it's fucked up. And then they can just move on. I'm actually, I believe that, I absolutely am of the opinion that current alignment-based damage spells are, like, basically, I'm expecting that every mortal is going to take every alignment damage source equally, unless they have particular magics cast on them or other very, very extenuating circumstances. Like, I think it'd be really cool if there was an Azamar feat. Or, I guess it would be Nephilim. Because I believe they're going to be Nephilim. Wait, Rovika was originally a Qiploth? Holy shit. I didn't know that. That makes sense. Huh. I mean, it would make sense. He's some kind of fundamental, incredibly evil. I don't know enough about Qiploths, really. I just know that they have a thing against Sen, which is really cool for a chaotic evil type of outsider. Also, I still think that one of the greatest losses from 1E is the term outsider. It's not necessarily a good term, but it's nice to have a term for extraplanar entity. Yeah, no, Rovika is the world cicada. He hungers. Oh, words. Oh, yeah, I expect that every mortal takes holy and unholy damage, and I hope law and chaos damage. Although, I don't think that they were going to go for, like, axiomatic damage or anything, because that's a mouthful, even though those are the normal routes that they go with, like chaos and law and whatnot. I expect those runes will still exist, but I don't think they're going for that name because it is a mouthful, and that's not good for a base damage type. And it's just a word that most people aren't immediately familiar with, so you don't want someone to be like reading through the system and be like, what the hell is that? But I expect that those will still exist, just probably under not law and chaos, maybe order damage and entropy damage or something. That was not worth saving up money for. I guess let's get at least one Harvester's Scythe. I'm fine with, like... Okay, that was the worst one to lose. Maybe I should have looked for a Scrapper. Oh! That's not what I thought it was. That is a entirely different item. I thought it was a Harvester's Scythe, not a... Not a Berserker Pauldron. Huh. Yeah, no, I don't think that they are a problem. I understand why they're changing the damage name simply for, like, distinction. I expect that all mortals will take it equally, but I think it would be really cool for, like, Nephilim, whether or not that includes all planar outsiders or not. Like, I'm just going to use Azamar for now because terminology, but, like, or not terminology, but just people know what I'm saying when I say Azamar. Where if there was like a higher level feat that gives them resistance to holy damage but weakness to unholy damage, like, I think that would be cool. And I'm really expecting that, like, maybe angels don't take holy damage, but they have weakness to unholy. That's how I'm expecting it to work. Oh, there is absolutely still going to be, like, quote-unquote evil and quote-unquote good damage. They're just going to be holy and unholy. They've already clarified that. They just haven't for law and chaos damage. Like, they specifically call out good and evil damage is going to be holy and unholy whenever they said, we're removing alignment. So they said, we're removing alignment, but aligned damage is still going to exist in some way. But it's definitely going to be applying to everyone, because they also said, like, yeah, this is going to help out divine spellcasters a lot. Which I don't think they would say if they were going to make it so divine lance can only ever be used on, like, very, very specific types of enemies. I mean, I don't want, like, law and chaos damage to go away, because I personally find, like, generally speaking, I find the, I mean, that is fair, actually, that lawful and chaotic creatures have more distinct mechanics. Like, if you compare, like, an angel to, or a demon or something, to, like, a Protean, Proteans have so much stuff going on in there, but I just find lawful and chaotic entities and outsiders and all of that lore and all of that, I find it so, like, it's very convoluted, but it's very interesting. So I hope it doesn't go away, just because I like that stuff. And also hitting someone with a divine lance of entropy, or just sheer chaos, is cool as hell. So I don't want it to go away. And it also has some interesting ideas for your, and basically there are some really cool ideas, I think, for spells that you can make that are based off of, that are still divine spells, but are based on things that aren't just like, oh no, I hit you with the bad stuff, or I hit you with the good stuff and it hurts. Like, I've always imagined, is it Divine Order? There's a 1E spell. I fucking hate Goonstrikers. But there's a 1E spell that does damage based on the God, Jesus, words. Mercenary is, in retrospect, maybe not the best character to play on a live stream, because he's one of the more high APM characters in the game. Basically, there was a spell in 1E that did different damage based on there's a lot of spells that did different damage based on alignment in 1E, and one of them does, like, full damage to, like, it doesn't affect lawful creatures. It does more damage against chaotic creatures, and neutral creatures take half damage. And I always imagined it as I'm going to exactly measure everything about you, and that's going to be incredibly uncomfortable, which I find really interesting as, like, a idea for a spell. of the you are concretely known and it hurts. For that instant, everything about you is ordered, which is unnatural. Oh, Hammer of Law, that's it. That is definitely it. I think there are probably multiple. It's like wanting to have multiple spells like that, instead of just one. Yeah, I don't think Divine Lance is gonna be axed. I just think it's gonna be made more applicable. As in it will be useful for everyone. I'm expecting that it will, like, let's say that there is, let's make this simple and say there is only going to be words holy and unholy damage. Like, there's not going to be, just for the sake of making things a bit simpler, there's only going to be holy and unholy damage in the remake. Then I expect it, like, Divine Lance will just be, you do 1d4 points of unholy or holy damage, plus your, like, spellcasting ability score modifier, or just your ability modifier, that's not ability scores anymore. Another good change. But whenever you gain the ability to cast the spell, choose whether or not it does holy or unholy damage based on, like, whatever deity you're following. So, like, if you're a cleric, it's similar to how you can pick between a healing or a harm divine font based on your deity. Just with unholy and holy included into that. So if you can only pick from a positive font, then you can pick good, or holy, sorry, for your Divine Lance. I expect that that's how it's gonna end up working. Because, God, Divine Spellcasters need a good damage cantrip. I mean, I think, here's a weird-ass idea. Like, legitimately weird. So, regarding a neutral character being able to do both, what if, oh, missed multi-shop. What if, like, so imagine that Divine Lance works as I outlined before, where when you first get access to it, you get to pick which type you want to get access to, and you don't get to pick later. However, what if there's a yeah, no, I got what you mean, Chloe. What if there's a religion skill feat that allows you to, like, change what damage type unholy and holy damaging spells do every day, and it's like called, like, bending the rules or something. So it's the, I can change this a bit for what I need to do in service of my god. And then maybe, then, like, depending on your proficiency in religion, you can do it in shorter and shorter amounts of time. So it starts off as being like a day thing whenever you're trained, and then expert, you can do it in 10 minutes, and then 3 actions, then 1 action. Similar to how like, quick identification works. Because then you could, like, I don't know. I think it would have to be a feat like that, rather than some underlying part of how holy and unholy spells function. because God, yeah, I don't think it would be an underlying part of a spell. It would have to be like an underlying part of how does this damage type work, which I think could be really cool. Alternatively, because actually I doubt King that's how they would do it, because that's adding like at least one additional line of text for every deity entry for the rest of their publication, which adds up a lot whenever you look at how big Pathfinder's Pantheon is. But I think that'd be fucking rad. I just don't expect it to happen. Because it sounds like a logistical nightmare. And that kind of goes back a little bit to, still, and I do definitely want an Inquisitor. This is not a spoiler. Not really. It's a spoiler for people who are not members of the channel and get access to videos a week early. But the next video that is coming out, that was made before the remaster was announced, in kind of poor timing, is about, like, what do I actually predict is going to be next. Like, what do I think the next Pathfinder books are going to be? Not what do I want, but what do I predict? Because those are different things. There's a lot of overlap, but so I do expect that a Divine focus book is going to be new, or not new, up soon. And yeah, that would probably have the Inquisitor. Otherwise, there would be rioting in the streets, or Inquisitor-like. But I still just keep on thinking back to just some dumb idea. Not dumb. I don't think it's a bad idea, but it definitely is a bit out there idea of like a, oh, but what if there was a class that was all about like actually channeling divine power through you? Oh, that'd be cool. And then you could kind of tie it into the Inquisitor of the I get handed power from a deity to hit you really hard. And in exchange, I get to bend the rules because my deity doesn't know what I'm doing. They're just giving me the gun. They're not helping me aim. Which would be fun. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Inquisitor doesn't end up being a distinct class of its own. I hope that it is, but I wouldn't be surprised if it isn't. Because, like, a cleric doctrine could do it. I'm assuming it would be like a, you have more skills and probably some extra ways to use skills in combat, and then plus full spellcasting. Or this is something that Hector and I have already talked a little bit about on that comments of that video, but like maybe a class archetype for champions once alignment is no longer a thing for champions. Like, you no longer have to be a good champion or an evil champion. You can be a very, very neutral champion. Like, maybe that, but using wisdom instead of charisma and as like a class archetype, or I don't know. But it would be interesting. And I just kind of like throwing out ideas and seeing what happens with them. Wait, where did... Oh, come on, I was trying to launch him into the ground. Why am I able to not launch him into the ground on command, but I can launch him into the sky? There's very, very weird interactions in Risk of Rain with momentum. In case you can't tell by that. But you can insta-kill bosses that fly by just launching them into the dirt like a basketball. I am just not someone who plays a lot of mercenary. Okay, I have an idea of how to do it. So let's get on top of this boy. And then... Nope. Did not... That's not it. Yeah, I am of the opinion that making... You probably can make the, War Priest as a class archetype. I think that would work pretty well. Maybe it'll be a thing in the remaster since they're retouching a lot of things, but I don't expect so. I think they would have called out the cleric as receiving significant changes if that was the case. Yeah. I can somehow say that I don't know much about druids. Because I've never played with one. Actually, that is a lie. I did play with a animal order druid for 2 sessions until both me and that animal order druid died in session 2 of the campaign. Yeah. Yeah, and War Priest I think is, from what I've seen, it doesn't seem like it's very problematic until later levels when the proficiency lacking, all of the lacking proficiency that is the main problem with the War Priest really starts becoming more noticeable. Because then the gaps become bigger. But like early levels, no, you can still hit hard and wear armor and be on the front lines, but then towards the later levels you just don't follow through with attack rolls anymore. But yeah. I'm so happy about Divine Lance no longer going to be able to be used to detect alignment. I mean, I am of the opinion that any reasonable setting would have, like, you know, laws and stuff, you know, against shooting Divine Lance at someone on the street and saying, well, no, Your Honor, they took damage from it, so therefore they're evil and they deserve it. And I also think that a lot of good deities would not be okay with that. Some would. Not all. Because what defines someone as evil? Good question. Who knows? But I'm just happy that that's not going to be a thing. Like, it's that has been a personal pet peeve of mine since I started playing 2E. Like, wait, no. Why do people think that's a valid idea? Yeah, no, a lot of good deities would fuck you up for doing it. And then, like, Ragathiel probably... Maybe not Ragathiel. Definitely there are some very, very militant, good deities that are more... that's not what I wanted. Well, anyway. Oh god, I forgot I double jumped. Yeah. Like, there are some deities that probably would not care about the distinction and would be fine with just the, if they're evil, shouldn't be evil. But a lot of good deities are not like that. Yeah, I mean, I definitely get the not liking, changing good and evil to holy and unholy. But there's already a lot of stuff that is... Oops. Speaking of weird momentum things, I am back in the fight now. But just, yeah, it's probably a good thing to not actually do the boss, or the secret boss here. I don't think I'd win. But, oh no, get out of there. But, yeah, I mean, I get it. Oh yeah, no, if it was Detect Rovagug Worshipper, then I think everyone would be okay with it. Like, actually, no, I actually think if it was Detect Rovagug Worshipper, then even Serenre would be fine with it, so long as you didn't, like, one-tap them. Like a Detect Rovagug Worshipper, and then you can say, hey, do you want to stop being a Rovagug Worshipper? But Serenre has beef with Rovagug, so, like... Yeah, I mean, I expect that Protection is no longer going to be a spell. Or it's going to be, like, Protection, but then you name, like, a creature type, so it's Protection from Fiends, Protection from Celestials. That's how I'm expecting Protection to be brought over. Yeah, the universe does have beef with Rovagug, that's a good point. And it's scary that the universe has beef with Rovagug, and it's not a fair fight for the universe. Rovagug is going to win, eventually. Like in Starfinder, where we don't know where Galarian is, and there's a new deity called the Devourer. I'm sure that will not have disastrous consequences for reality. Hey, not all Rovagug worshippers are immediately out the gate serial killers destroying literally everything in sight. He does set up precedent for creating things so you can destroy more things. Like, you need Detect Rovagug Worshipper for the actually scary Rovagug Worshippers. Like, if someone is a Rovagug Worshipper and they're just going around, like, bashing, like, anything that has ever been made, then it's pretty obvious. But Detect Rovagug Worshipper is good for the subtle and insidious Rovagug Worshipper. Yeah, like, spell, like, I personally don't have a problem with, holy and unholy being, like, damage types. I definitely see that it could be better. But, like, I fully understand why people can have problems with that. I don't personally, but I also recognize that probably a non-insignificant part of that is because, I recognize that, that holy and unholy are terms associated with, like, real-life religions, but at the same time, I have, the majority of my experiences with those terms is in games with stuff like Holy Smite. So, I personally don't have that issue. Because I hear, like, oh, holy damage. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Because most of my experiences with that, are video games already. or TTRPGs, or... yeah. Oh, I didn't know that one of the only true... yeah. I still really want, like, an AP that hard focuses on a Cult of Rovagug, trying to, like, mess with one of the spires that is keeping Rovagug in place. and have it be like a ridiculously big deal that one of the spires is being weakened. So like it needs to be something where there isn't a failure condition for the AP where Rovagug gets out. But I want Rovagug, and like going really, really deep into the Darklands, to be an AP. Who knows, maybe that's what the Sky King's Tomb is going to be. But I doubt it, because it'd be weird for them to advertise the Sky King's Tomb and then not follow through with it. I mean, saying good and evil, yeah, maybe also, another fantastic, at least in my mind, fantastic idea for like a 3-book AP that starts at like, it'd be like starting at level 11, similarly to, Fist of the Ruby Phoenix. You gotta get to the bottom of the Scar of Gormuz. Good fucking luck. And it's not like, oh no, Rovagug is getting free or something. It's, oh no, you just need something that is at the bottom of the Pit of Gormuz. And you end up getting to level 20 simply by traveling through the pit. Is it the pit or is it the Scar of Gormuz? And is it even Gormuz? I think it's Gormuz. But it's the place where, I believe it's Serenray, like, smited a city from orbit, and almost broke Rovagug out, because, like, she basically broke through the crust. Like, that, I think, has a very interesting making for a high-level adventure. It could even be something like, is it Night of the Grey Death? Night of Grey Death? Whatever it is, the high-level adventure that Paizo put out. But I personally would want it to be an AP, because I think the Pit of Gormuz is big enough that that would be an entire AP. Because, yeah, that's a place where no one lives. And everyone dies. That's where the Trask and all the other spawns of Rovagug have come out. Excellent, another double jump. That will help a lot with flying enemies, because, God, I already hate them, and then I play a melee character. Yep, come on, missile, there we go. I'm almost sad that I get a ukulele and multiple ATGs on this run, when on the run with Bandit, I didn't get any. Because, my items on the other, on Bandit were, like, better for Mercenary. And vice versa, almost. I have a lot of good ranged items, and then not a whole lot of, melee ones. But that is a good point of, like, a Rovagug AP could definitely be a Tyrant's Grasp equivalent. Also, I just want to... admittedly, I have not looked a huge amount into Sky King's Tomb. But I want to, like, a true Darklands AP. Like, there is some aspects of it in Abomination Bolts. Well, gotta sneeze sometime soon. Oh, why doesn't it just... Ugh. It's fading, damn it. Like, I just want, like, a real... Like, you've gotta go all the way down. Because you... Spoilers for Abomination Vaults for probably, like, the next 5-ish seconds. So, 3, 2, 1... you get to the Darklands. You don't go, like, exploring in the Darklands at Abomination Vaults. Spoilers over in case anyone is... I don't know. I would not call that a major spoiler, but it's not that surprising if you are thinking ahead at all. But like, just having, like, a genuine, you're going all the way down isn't something that has been done a huge amount. Like, you go into the Darklands a bit with like, you do it a bit with Iron Fang Invasion, Second Darkness, Abomination Vaults, almost certainly Sky King's Tube, even though I'm not actually certain. I just know it is a, you're going deep underground with dwarves, which, yeah, that's Darklands. Just, there's so much cool stuff down there, and, like, I am just a huge fan, not, like, literally, because I am terrified of actually going underground. That's not true. Caves are just creepy as hell. Fear of Caves is a fantastic video by a YouTube channel called Jacob Geller, in case you're looking to understand why people are terrified of cramped, enclosed spaces underground. Very, very good YouTube channel overall. But anyway, I am getting distracted a lot. But just, like, something where you will keep on going down further and further and everything gets worse because you're getting closer to Rovagug. That's cool. Yeah, also, I've heard a lot of kind of iffy things about Second Darkness. Well, that's not the right, like, term. Just, I don't think Second Darkness would be made in remotely the same way now as it was then. Not necessarily in a good way. I've also heard there's a lot of body horror. Which is... good or bad, depending on who you are in your party. And it's definitely the kind of thing where Paizo has been including now, like, trigger warnings, and that's a good thing, because some people can't stand body horror, but like it anyway because they can't stand it and it's horror and it makes you uncomfortable, and that's a good thing for them. Other people can't stand it, as in they don't want to play it. So, like, if you don't know that you're running into, like, the body horror AP until book 4, and it's like, oh, but I want to keep playing the campaign, but also, oh god, I want to throw up. Yeah, like, going all the way to Orv, there's just so much fun stuff in the Darklands that doesn't get touched. I can only dream. Now here's a, like, completely out there, wild, completely unsubstantiated idea for another Pathfinder book. That would be probably pretty far out in the future. But Paizo didn't explicitly say, but kind of hinted that there's going to be something similar with Starfinder, with the remaster. Which makes sense, because they probably also want to get Starfinder under the Orc publishing license and out of the OGL. So that makes sense. Like, I'm expecting that to happen at some point, which I'm excited for, because Starfinder is really cool. I just have a couple of problems with it mechanically, which a lot of them stem from its Pathfinder 1.5. So it has a lot of the good stuff from 2e, but it also has a lot of the bad stuff from 1e. Yeah, but, like, with trigger warnings, I think it makes sense to include those, because, like, if you are going to be doing something that makes you uncomfortable, you should know beforehand. Same reason why session zeros are so important. Knowing what different people are okay with is really important. No, not good at that. And yeah, I'm gonna be activating a mountain shrine, even though I don't really need more items, because, I mean, who doesn't love unnecessary risk? Yeah, no, like, for example, for example, there is some stuff where it's like, oh, well, different people, it's like, I don't know why this is the first thing that came to my mind, but like, some people are okay with body horror, but if it happens to a kid, then they're not. So like, that's the kind of thing where that's a session zero talk of what are people. There's a reason I fucking love, by the way, I've considered making a video on this for a while. Actually, I should probably do that because it's actually kind of interesting, and it's just well done. But the whole lines and veils thing, which I don't know if Paizo came up with, but lines and veils are good for drawing lines on what do you want at the table. Because otherwise then you, like, basically if there aren't content warnings, then the GM kind of has to read through the entirety of every book to know whether or not things are going to be problematic, or problematic in a way that allows you to deal with them. Like, for example, with the Darklands AP, I have played with players that have arachnophobia. And yeah, probably, that would be a problem if one of the predominant enemies that are reoccurring are Driders, or whatever they end up being called in the remaster. Like, that would be a problem. However, different people have different degrees of arachnophobia. Like, some people are totally okay with spiders being there, so long as you don't get like too graphic of descriptions of them and you use like little cartoon okay, Hector. Red flag. Yeah, but like some people it's like, oh yeah, they're a parent, they really don't want to think about their kids being in danger and whatnot, but like basically there's a lot of stuff and it's good to know about beforehand, because you don't want to end up on RPG horror stories. And helping out that kind of behavior is a good thing, and I think it's very responsible of Paizo. And then there's also, oh god, I almost died. Jesus. That's what I get for sticking around in a void seed for like 30 seconds without good healing. I'm very happy that I looked at my health there, because this run is going to go all the way if I don't do something stupid like that. So now I would love for some one guess here from the from this void seed, because that would fix my healing problem because I sprint all the time. Well, that's not one guess, and I'm not taking that. Because I have capped crit and crit items. So, yes, a chance of a one-shot kill is good, but double damage is better. Yeah, I think that Drider PCs, Drider would be a, Drider would be a heritage, not a ancestry, because in case you didn't know, Driders are flesh warps in 2e. Like, they are, there's weird stuff. Oh, that's what you're talking about. Got it. Huh. Drider specific lore is interesting in Pathfinder. I'm not super... There's some weird stuff with flesh warps. I'm not super familiar on it because I wasn't the person in our Abomination Vaults group that recalled knowledge on everything. That was our investigator who had flesh warp lore. But if I'm recalling correctly from some stuff from like a year and a half ago that two different people said at different times, the way that flesh warping works, like, I should say specifically drow style flesh warping, because you can become a flesh warp from like the Spellscar Desert, but there's also a specific process that the drow use, that there are kind of different results, but a lot of what you get from flesh warping depends specifically on like what ancestry you are. So, like, I believe you get a Drider whenever you flesh warp a drow. You get, like, there's a kind of defensive, sort of armored tank kind of flesh warp that you get whenever you flesh warp a dwarf. Flesh warping elves is horrifying based on what you get from them. Like, flesh warping is a very specific thing in 2e that other types of kind of bodily mutations are then brought under the name flesh warp because of the ancestry. Yeah, so that's why I said like Drider would probably be like a heritage for they'd kind of be a heritage, probably rare, for the flesh warp ancestry. That would make him large, and that would probably be the only ability of the, or it probably wouldn't be the only ability, but the main ability of the heritage, and then they just have a bunch of Drider feats that required you to have the Drider heritage. Like, basically, I don't think they could do Drider as like a, similar to Ghost or Ghoul or whatnot. But then I think they would still have to have that class archetype would have to require that you're also a flesh warp. Or not class archetype, but like weird archetype style thing that ghouls are and all the undead. Which I'm kind of in favor of doing it that way, even though I think it would probably be better as a like, I think that probably the better way to represent like a Drider PC mechanically would be to do them as a heritage and then just give a bunch of ancestry feats related to it, because being large sized would probably already be enough, because Driders are large, and that's already a big enough advantage that, like, probably the only thing you would get from the heritage is being large. Being large, and also probably some wording saying you're a weird spider thing. You can fit through 5-foot wide hallways. But maybe they're like double or like difficult terrain or something. And then like maybe a feat later on that just makes you extra squirmy to be able to go through them at full speed. But like, basically, I think that would be the better way to introduce Drider PCs mechanically. But I also really want to see more archetypes like the undead archetypes. I don't want those to just be a one-off that they don't touch again, because I think that it's a really cool idea for archetypes that fundamentally change your character. And that's really cool, and I want to see more of them. But sadly, they haven't introduced any since Book of the Dead. And I also, speaking of fundamentally adjusting your character, God, I want to see more artifact archetypes from the Treasure Vault. I know that asking for that is kind of silly because we haven't had a real, like, big book since Treasure Vault. But they're so cool. Like, I almost... Oh. Huh. I might be able to make that work, actually, for a... I would very much need permission from my GM, but I might be playing Stolen Fate next, after I finish Outlaws of Alkenstar, and I might be able to make... We might be able to make the Gelid Shard archetype work for that. But they're just so cool of getting a crazy strong artifact that fundamentally changes what you are. That's so cool. And also the cantrip specific to the Gelid Shard archetype is probably my favorite, like, cantrip in the game of the... You just make things out of ice. Anything that you can think of, you just make ice sculptures. Which is so cool. But... yeah, I mean, if they ever do make a Darklands book, which is what this Drider idea would be in, because let's be... That's what it would be in. I believe that the where's the magma worm? It died one-handed. It's invisible. It's all the goddamn Celestian enemies. If they ever introduce the Drider, in that book they're probably also either going to introduce a Drow heritage or a Drow ancestor. And I think a lot of that does come down to what are the actual differences outside of culture between elves and Drow. Is there enough of a, like, true physical distinction where it would make sense to where they aren't just, yeah, you're a cavern elf, you have dark vision. Like, is there enough to make that into a distinct ancestry? But, because, yeah, according to, I believe, information in Abomination Vaults, you don't get a Drider if you flesh warp a new elf. You get some absolutely horrifying monster. Like, horrifyingly sad kind of monster. It's not a pleasant process, and it screams so hard it breaks your mind. Half fiends. That's just a tiefling. Tiefling. Nephilim. Also, it's hilarious to me. Some people in one of the groups I'm in are incredibly passionate about terminology. Oh, I forgot I'm doing this. I hope I don't die. Well, it's kind of. Oh, or you mean, like, legitimately you have fiend powers? Like, you are truly extraplanar, it's not in your blood, it is you. Or it's like you're grafted into a fiend. Yeah, that could make for an interesting archetype that is legitimately, entirely, like, a separate thing, like undead. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, yep. Well, yeah. I should not have picked up those beads of heresy. Let's do a basic. Just a basic old commando. I mean, a kind of half-fiend thing would make sense for the, like, oh, you've sold your soul. There are already... Huh. No, actually, I don't want a singularity band. But like the you sell your soul for power, there are already infernal contract rules that also coincidentally came out in Abomination Vaults. But they don't go far enough for the kind of you've sold your soul and now you're a half fiend. Because it's like, oh, you get a bonus on saving throws that you can use, or like re-rolling saving throws and whatnot, but then it has like a secret downside. But the you've sold your soul and now you are half fiend, but you have like that power has come with a price which you don't face now. Like that would be part of it. You don't face this now. But you do whenever you die. That could be interesting. And if they ever port over Wrath of the Righteous, I don't think that they're going to be taking the CRPG Wrath of the Righteous. Because the whole, like, you slowly turn into a demon or an angel wasn't in the original AP. That's just how Owlcat decided to represent Mythic. Rather than the other really weird way that Mythic worked in the tabletop game. What was I thinking? Words something. Oh yeah, like Mythic stuff in archetypes or whatnot. Although I will say, the way that, if I could pick, how would they introduce a Mythic subsystem into Pathfinder? I would want it to be implemented along with an AP and Iblados, because goddammit, I love Iblados and I will never stop bringing it up. Because it is one of the places in Golarion where Mythic power is, like, not common. But, like, Mythic is, like, legendary in other places. Iblados, it's just a thing that some people have. Iblados is basically it's not really just, oh, it's ancient Greece. But it kind of is just ancient Greece. It is the region of Golarion that is inspired by ancient Greece, the same way that Gault is inspired by France. Like, it's kind of an archipelago that's ruled by basically demigods between different city-states. There's a whole thing where there are giant leviathans that the mythic demigods don't want to mess with. So there's, like, sacrifices to sea monsters, and yeah, it's I can't believe it's not Greece, but it's still really cool. And I'd love to see, like, yeah, you're level 1, and you're hitting level 20, and we are also introducing Mythic, and we're kind of breaking the system open, because Iblados is the kind of setting where that happens. Like, that's just a thing. Words are not in my head. Brain off and empty. Oh. This is a subject that I didn't get to because I got distracted. Yeah, like selling your soul, which Oracle, that could work. You can flavor a shit ton of classes like that. Like, you could flavor a barbarian to be selling your soul, and then your rage is what you get, but it has, like, downsides of the, yeah, I've sold my soul, so whenever I die, like, they get me. Unfortunately, the gift they gave me also leads me to taking incredibly strong risks that will get me to, like, deliver my end of the bargain sooner rather than later. Like, you can reflavor so many classes for it. Oh, Demon Barbarian would be sick. Also, I'm gonna be so upset if there isn't an elemental barbarian instinct and rage of the elements. Like, I don't think it's needed, but I'll be upset if it isn't there based on the name. And also, if there isn't an elemental Eidolon, I am going to be very disappointed in Paizo. Now, can I live this is the question of the hour. Because I can kill the Titan, but then can I live the rest? Oh, Titanic Neural. Yeah, I'll be fine then. I actually have some HP regen now. Because Commando has decent damage, as long as you get items to improve it. But trash mobility and healing. It's very, very dependent on what items you receive. Yeah, no, like, I think the Lich comparison is good. You're not a necromancer, you are undead now. Like, the fundamental essence of your being is changing. Oh, yeah, but what I was talking about before that I then got distracted with, because, oh god, do I get distracted easily, is that, Paizo basically did a soft confirm that Starfinder's going to be getting something related to the remaster. Whether or not that's, like, an actual remaster, where they are, like, reprinting it, just like with what they're doing with Pathfinder, or we don't know. They haven't announced it, at least as I'm aware. But, oh, it would be great if it was like a full remaster thing, and then they also did some kind of book that's tying in the two systems together, because I really, really like Starfinder, but it also just does not get the same amount of attention as Pathfinder, because Pathfinder is the main product. But it's so cool. But, like, yes, this is in part me just thinking, oh, but in terms of, like, cool factor, Starfinder has, like, dramatically cooler classes than Pathfinder. Like, it's just, like, so many of their classes are just like, oh, that's badass. But that is very wishful thinking that they would give some kind of conversion between the two cross-promotional material. Very, very wishful thinking. But it'd be cool. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, and, like, Starfinder has large-size ancestries also. Well, races, but, ancestries. I'm just gonna use ancestries because that's what my brain defaults to now. Where it's like, oh, yeah. People can get really, really big on other planets. And that has some cool stuff. And I'd like to see more of that in, like, Pathfinder. Also, another really cool thing that I don't necessarily know how Paizo wants to approach it, because they've already taken some steps for it. Oh, Elemental would totally be Primal. Arcane spellcasters have Elemental spells, but Primal, like, Elemental stuff is very, very Primal. But there's something that I still am surprised by, is that, I'm surprised that there aren't any, ancestries so far in 2e that have, like, poor vision, but other senses as precise. Which there are in Starfinder. I think they're the Valaka? Yeah, Valaka. They are wolf people from, I forget which moon. I think it's one of the moons of one of the, like, gas giants in the core worlds. But there are three options whenever you play a Valaka. There's normal, you just have sight, and then blind. But when you're blind, I think you get, like, I think there's two options, or there's three options. One's normal senses, one's blind, and I think one's deaf. But then you get ridiculous bonuses for the other ones. So, or it might be deaf, or I'm forgetting what it is because I have not played Starfinder in like 5 years. But where it's like, oh, you have precise hearing within 60 feet. Invisibility doesn't matter to you. You just see or hear where everyone is. Oh yeah. Brilliant Behemoth is a fantastic item to get this early. Like, it's cool, but also at the same time, I know that Paizo isn't going to want to say, like, oh, well, you want to play a blind character? Just play this Ancestry, where being blind doesn't really impact them. Because that's the thing with, like, representing disabilities, is one, it's a very complicated subject, and two, it's that you don't want to make a character seem weaker because of their disability, but you also don't want to, like, completely ignore it, because if you're completely ignoring it, then, like, you're not representing the disability. But I love the idea of, like, oh yeah, my character doesn't have eyes. Like, it's not they're blind, it's that their, like, ancestry literally can never see. They don't know what that is. Like, that is very different to me from blindness, at least, like, the way that we experience blindness. But Paizo's already been doing a good job in regards to representing diversity, or not representing diversity, representing disability. So, like, I'm sure they don't want to fuck it up. But okay, there we go. I would love a ukulele. Damn. Actually, I guess that's not terrible. I can actually activate the bands once I get them. Even though I don't have them yet. And I would imagine that a large Ancestry would get some kind of... Okay, a large Ancestry would be better in melee combat, because they would have reach. I'm expecting... Actually, I don't know if Triders have reach. I think Triders don't have reach, actually, because they're like a medium-sized torso. So I think they don't have reach, now that I think about it. But either way, I would imagine that that's the kind of niche that they would fill, where they wouldn't do more damage, they would just be bigger. Oh yeah, they have a glaive. Fair. In my experience, lacking a couple of senses is actually pretty good in Pathfinder, because I've played with one deaf PC, and it didn't hugely impact them, because everyone else in the party ended up taking sign language, or taking sign language as a language, because our GM was not, I wouldn't say kind is the right word, logical in saying, yeah, no, the only way to learn sign language shouldn't be taking the sign language skill feat. Sign language is just a language that you can learn. But there's a lot of auditory effects, and you're just immune to those if you are deaf. There's still a lot of penalties, and I don't think that, like, let's say there is a ancestry that is introduced that is, yeah, no, I personally do not know sign language, but it is probably one of the languages that I would like to learn the most. Oh, touch telepathy. That would actually, yeah. That would be certainly one way to do like a mute character pretty, not easily, but to be able to have a translator or interpreter, not on demand, but like just a way to do it. The same player that played the deaf PC was actually going to be playing a deaf and mute PC for Outlaws of Alkenstar, and we were going to have another character was going to be playing a Sprite Bard, which they did end up playing. But they didn't end up going for the... They were originally going to be going for the heritage that got touch telepathy, but they ended up changing it. But the plan was originally going to be like their best buds, and they're all like... The Bard communicates for the Gunslinger. You got big and little. Yeah, but so like imagine if there's a heritage that does not see. They don't have vision even as like an imprecise sense. Being blind would mean that you're immune to all mental effects. And having a different precise sense means that you are not affected by like an enemy casting invisibility. Or arguably, displacement. Because displacement just moves, or even like blur, because you don't see the illusion. And a lot of illusions you just don't see. They could say that like illusion magic is more of a, or could be said to be more of a, like, it affects how people perceive things, not necessarily, like an illusion of a wall doesn't create the visual illusion of a wall. It creates the effect of an illusion of a wall. So it basically affects whatever the equivalent for sight would be for whoever is affected by it. That would be the easy way of not making it so a blind character is immune to almost an entire school of magic. But definitely it'd still be like immune to visual effects and stuff. So then like, what's the downside outside of like only ever having a precise sense within 20 feet of you? Because that's a big downside. It means that like, you can't play a long-range character. Yeah, actually part of the reason, canonically, the Drow, were the people who came up with sign language in Galarian, because of stealth mission stuff, although it is also very dumb that, that the Drow, like, came up with sign language because the Drow aren't the only people with deaf people. So, like, realistically, yeah, like, there is, like, Drow sign language, but there should also be, like, Chaldean sign language, and probably Elven sign language, and probably Dwarven sign language, which is what you get. You get all of those when you take the sign language skill feat, but yeah. It's weird where it's like, oh yeah, everyone has sign language, and also the Drow, no sign language, and they invented it, which doesn't feel right. So I don't know, like, I don't know whether or not only having like a precise sense within like 30 feet would, and like obviously not being affected by the you're flat-footed and move at half speed part of blinded, is that enough to make up for, like, what's the drawback for not being able to see? Because you don't want to make it so there isn't a drawback, because that, then why are you, like, you can't make it not matter. But then how do you make it matter without making it horrible? Because so much of the system kind of expects that you do see. I guess I haven't actually looked at a lot of low-level illusions, and That's actually an interesting idea with making them into a into a background instead of like an ancestry or a heritage, because that would be a way to do it. My only I guess it is a problem. My only complaint with that would be that I think that it would be fitting. Wait a minute, did I get the key this level or last level? Because I want to get the cash that I get from it. I don't want to just miss it. And the void caches are really obvious. So I probably got it this level? Yeah, I got it this level because I got it after the shurikens. So just 1 or 2 more stops. Oh yeah, but my only like true issue with it being a background instead is that I think it would be really cool also to have like feats later on that can change it. So like having a feat that is able to interact with it to maybe expand the radius of your sight. Or something like that would be cool. And if it's a background, then there's not likely to be additional feats like that, but it is probably the cleanest way of introducing it. I do have some questions, because this is something that we don't know anything about, but it's interesting to talk about, which is, oh, please give me a Shatter Spleen. Oh yeah, that's a Shatter Spleen. We're in business. I just realized that I'm not playing on Monsoon. I'm playing on Rainstorm. Oh god, that's why these runs have been going fairly well even when I don't have good items. This run I've got good items, but not Monsoon's more fun. But yeah, I'm thinking it would probably be some kind of like, take for instance the Valaka from Starfinder. They wouldn't be the Pathfinder version because they are on a different planet, but the Valaka would probably have some base abilities, and then like one heritage is like better empathy or something, because that's one of their other things in Starfinder, and then another heritage is you're blind but have like hearing as a precise sense, and then like another heritage is a different sense. But yeah, like I think background is probably the better way to do it, but then there isn't as much room for mechanical extra shit tacked on, which I'm a personal fan of extra shit tacked on, but sometimes simple is best. No matter how much I like getting extra shit tacked on. I'm getting all of those. I forgot about that. But forgetting I got an executive card this early into the run. It's fantastic, which is why I'm surprised. But oh yeah, something that I have not mentioned, and we don't have an answer to, as much as I would like it, is that Paizo did say in the blog post about the remaster that there's gonna be a new versatile heritage, which I've seen a lot of people not argue, but debate about what it's gonna be. Maybe skill feats, general feats, honestly. General feats could work. Of general feats based on your perception proficiency. That's a straightforward way of approaching it. But Yeah, but there's going to be a new versatile heritage, apparently in the remaster, that they specifically called out as like, and there's also going to be one more of these that you haven't seen yet, which makes me wonder, what the hell is it going to be? I've seen a lot of people suggest that it could be a... Oh, I should have gotten the Gore's Tome first. Could speed up getting gold. I can get a Gore's Tome. But I've seen people suggest, like, oh, they've been pointing out a lot of stuff about dragons. So what if it's a half-dragon? So, like, yeah, like, what if they're going to actually be introducing a half-dragon heritage? Or it would be half-dragon because it's a heritage and not a... and not an ancestry. But, like, oh, that would be really cool. But I want it to just be the adopted ancestry versatile heritage. You give up your heritage and you get adopted ancestry at level 1. So now the humans wouldn't be the only ancestry that can actually take a ancestry feat from not their original ancestry at level 1. Because why? Yeah, and like, I think it'd be cool to have basically an equivalent of Dragonborn for 2e. Because I could probably help more people convert from 5e to 2e, but I don't expect that that's the direction that they're going to be going. I really hope it's the adopted ancestry, just because why are humans the only ones that can, like, have a mechanical representation of I was raised by elves at level 1 and everyone else has to wait till level 3? And it wouldn't be ideal, because it means that you're giving up your level 1 ancestry feat, so sometimes you might actually... and your heritage. So sometimes you might want to go with a different route with it. And also, I totally think that the better way to do it wouldn't be a heritage, but a background. Yeah, like, the background heritage that... Ryland, that's probably it. I am tired. But I think that's just the better way to do it, because adopted ancestry is like, and just make it like uncommon or something, because it's getting a general feat instead of a skill feat. And like, if it gives you adopted ancestry and makes you trained in the lore from no, we're not talking about Toph. But, like, if you just got adopted ancestry in the lore of the ancestry that you're, like, now, that you were raised by, I think that's a perfectly good archetype. So it has lore proficiency, but not skill proficiency. Yeah, like, that just seems like it would work. Like, way smoother than like a heritage, because also it would mean like, oh, well, I can be an orc raised by humans, but I can't have big teeth. Why? So that's how I would prefer for it to be implemented, but then I don't know what I would want the other like versatile heritage that they're calling out as, oh, we're adding this. I don't know what that would be then. Seriously, where is this void key stash? I guess I not checked up here. I need to get gold anyway, so it's not a true tragedy that I'm not immediately heading to the teleporter, because I want to get the red, which is 3,000, so I'm getting there. No, I've already been up here. looks like it might be down below a bit. I mean, if I don't find the void cache, then it isn't the end of the world, but okay then. Jesus Christ, I'm getting so many threads. An unreasonable amount, one could say. Yeah, that was just a normal. I'm not actually looking for a void cache. It's a void. No, is it a void cache? Because these are void cradles, right? Yeah. Okay. Shadow Plane. I would love to see more stuff on the Shadow Plane. Shadow Plane stuff is just fun. Oh, First World Heritage. Interesting. I'd love to see more stuff on the Fae. In part because the Eldest are cool. That is a not insignificant aspect of it. And yeah, no, Fae, you could definitely have Shadow Plane and First World stuff in the same book. Because is it Count Ralneric? Or is it the Lost Prince? I think it's Count Ralneric that has, like, ties to Shadow that you could totally work into, oh no. I need to get my shields back so I can actually start using the shrimp. Okay. Shrimp acquired again. This game makes no sense. I realize occasionally whenever I'm talking about it. I shoot missiles. Oh, I shoot even more damaging missiles at people whenever I have shields. But I think it's Count Ralneric. That is, yeah, tied to like shadows and stuff, and he's a fan favorite because he's an edgy boy, and people love their edgy boys. Me kind of included. Although I'm more of a Lost Prince. More of a Lost Prince fan. For the different other Fae edgy boy. But Fae are fun, and the First World as just a concept is just cool. It's just the beta version, which is a interesting idea for a plane. And also, there hasn't been a Fae kind of AP in a very long time, which is actually important in regards to the likelihood of Paizo making a book. Because they are generally seeming to be making, like, putting out a book relating to a particular subject, and then later making an AP on that subject. Like Book of the Dead and Bloodlords. So that's why I'm expecting there's going to be a kind of elemental plane themed AP coming out in the future, because I mean, obviously Rage of the Elements, or like it could be another kind of genie gen kind of AP, like I can never remember this AP's name. Oh my god, a very early 1E AP that dealt with genie and gen a lot. Why can I never? Why is it always this specific AP that I can't remember? Oh, that's bothering me. Yeah, but like, so it's kind of part of the reason why I don't expect that there's going to be books related, or like a words. Like, I don't expect that there's going to be a. I'm trying to think for recent themed APs. Paizo just ties their releases together because then they sell more books. Because it's like, oh, well, you want to play this AP? Well, maybe. If only we just put out a book all about that kind of information that might be useful for you as a GM. It is a smart business strategy. Oh, God, get out there. My damage massively drops whenever I lose my shields. That is the downside of the shrimp. In exchange for very consistently good damage. Let's see. This is probably going to be the last run for the stream, because I am starting to fade a bit and probably should get some more food in me. Yeah, I think that I think that the trend is more, here's an AP, here's a rulebook. Or, sorry, here's a rulebook, here's an AP. I think that's generally the, like, general trend? I could be wrong about that, because I have a not great grasp on time and calendars, as in my memory is horrible for them, so I don't always remember. I remember the order that books come out in, but I don't necessarily remember whenever, like, did this AP come out around the time that this book came out. I remember the order, but not when. But generally, I know the reason why I'm saying that is because of Book of the Dead and Bloodlords, because they announced Book of the Dead first and then Bloodlords, and then like Dark Archive, then oh, it's not. I'm thinking of the, it's not Seven Arches. It's the Gate something. Gate Crashers. Gate Crashers. But they announced Dark Archive, then Gate Crashers, which is very creepy, weird, occult stuff. So I think that that's the general trend. But oh, there's a void ball. Yeah, I made something. We'll take more shrimp. Because I'm already relying on them mostly for my damage. Why not rely on them more? Yeah. That's good decisions. Whenever you're relying on something, put more eggs in the basket. That way you'll think about losing it even more and be more careful. I'm a fountain of good advice. Let's see. I don't actually want any other use items, so I can skip on that. And more keys. Why am I only getting keys? I guess I haven't gotten all the keys, but I've gotten a lot for some reason. Oh, that's a fun location for a chest. One of these days I should actually go to Mithrix, but I don't want Mithrix to have my current items. So, and just looping is easier for mindlessly talking. Not mindlessly, but generally just talking about stuff. One thing that I am interested to see whether or not Paizo touches in the remake, because it is something that is a very commonly discussed topic, as anyone who's been online regarding Pathfinder knows. But cantrip damage. I am interested to see whether or not they touch it. Like, are they going to boost the damage of cantrips other than Electric Arc? Because Electric Arc is good, the other ones are not. Something like Plant Sense, I think would be too specific. Although I think it would be cool for like an Ancestry feat, but I don't think that's good enough for like giving up sight. I don't think that is a trade-off that many people would make, because then like you go indoors. And then what? Although I could actually see I could see the words, Jesus. I could see like a plant sense or tremor sense or water sense or that kind of thing. I can totally see that being a kineticist thing, because there's precedent for it in 1E, Like, I think Earth Kineticists and 1E could get Tremor Sense. And then, I don't remember if there was a sensory Fire Wild talent. I know that there was for air and water, but they were very different. They weren't like, oh, you can sense air all around you, or you can sense people moving through water. Although I think you did get... I think there was an option for Tremor Sense, but specifically for underwater. It was just like 120-foot Tremor Sense, but only if you are both touching connecting points of water. Wave Sense, that was it. Oh, well, thing about Plant Sense is there's now going to be a wood Eidolon, or not a wood, a wood Kineticist. So I could totally see the, I touch a tree and then I see through a tree, like 100 feet away or something. Like I could totally see that being something that they decide to implement if there's going to be like Wave Sense. And then there's like the scrying through water option for Hydrokineticists in 1E, and then there was the see-through air? Or see through the breeze or something like that, where you could send a gust of wind around on a circuit and then perceive through everywhere that, like, gust of air touched. It was really weird and very, very, very specific, but very cool. And yes, there is going to be wood and metal planes. I have not looked at the information on what they're doing with them in a long time, but I remember thinking, oh, that's wild. I just hope that they aren't, like, uniform, and that they represent different aspects of those elements. Because I'm not an expert regarding what makes the wood element, in, like, the same way what makes fire fire, because I did not grow up in reading stories like Avatar, where wood and metal were traditional elements. So I hope that they lean into those, whatever those are, because I think it would make for a dramatically more interesting world. I am just not not experienced enough to be able to know what that would be. But you don't need to be an expert on something to ask for someone who knows what they're doing to help you. Yeah, like, I don't want the plane of wood to be the plant plane. I want it to be the wood plane. I don't know what that distinction is, but... And obviously there is going to be overlap, because... like, obviously there's going to be overlap. But I want it to focus on the wood part of it, rather than the plant part. Good luck to Paizo to figure out how to do that, because I don't know. But I think it'd be cool. If I remember correctly, it was something... the only thing that I remember regarding the two planes, I think, is from PaizoCon, like, last year. Glass is kind of Earth. It isn't, like, super clean. Like, they don't have exact delineations because there's so many, so much ground to cover with that Paizo doesn't cleanly delineate. Oh yeah, sand is, like, glass is wood. That glass is earth. Sand is, but they haven't clarified for literally everything because, oh my god, they don't have that kind of page space. I do, yeah, no, the couple of things that I do know regarding the planes is that somehow there's some kind of heavy metal inspiration in the wood plane, or sorry, in the metal plane, which is cool. I don't know what that means. And also that I've seen some concept art from around that time, and I think that, well, there's the question, is oil an earth thing, or is it a biological thing? Because oil is a biological product. It is a product that is created from biological elements, but through a lot of geological processes. So it's very, very unclear, and that's why they can't clarify everything, because, oh god, that would take forever. I would say oil, no. Oil is not Earth. And thereby any plastic products are not Earth. But that's my take on it. Yeah, but there was like some rough concept art, and I was like, I forget which one was super orderly and which one was a chaotic nightmarescape. I'm pretty sure that the wood plane concept art was like almost garden-esque, of like, this is cultivated and orderly, and then the metal plane was a nightmare hellscape of metal. But I could I don't remember, because my memory is not that good when relating to things other than probably Pathfinder rules. So, coal, maybe earth, probably. But the thing is, it's very unclear, and a lot of it comes down to interpretation of what those elements are. So, like, what is each element is something that I imagine in setting, in universe, would be an incredibly heatedly debated subject. The same way that I imagine that, like, there are probably, like, councils, before they're getting rid of it, thank God, there were probably, like, councils of religious scholars arguing about how does someone get each alignment, and arguing about that. Or the same way that, like, yeah, realistically speaking, in, like, the Pokemon setting, there are probably very heated debates about how to categorize different Pokemon with different, like, typings. Where it's like, there are these things in the setting, and I cannot imagine that they are ever concretely defined. You could have, like, charcoal that is more closely associated with wood than fire, or maybe it's earth. Who knows? It's probably dependent on the particular part of matter that you're looking at. Or is it kind of like how electrons work in real life, where they change or rather, you can only, like, observe one part of it, but not every part all at once, and then that dramatically complicates things. That's the way that I see a lot of trying to figure out how things work concretely, like, are, yeah, like, that's part of the thing that I was thinking of, Hector, regarding the concept art that I saw, where I was like, oh, I was imagining this to be the opposite. Which is kind of why I said, like, I want them to not just be, like, one aesthetic, and I want it to be, what is this element at its core? And that can be two different conflicting things. That can easily be two different conflicting things. Fire is simultaneously incredibly, incredibly destructive, but it's also warmth. And probably one of the most important things for, like, survival that we ever did. For, like, cooking food and stuff. So there's that dichotomy with fire, and I want that to exist, like, everywhere. Like, water can be absolutely terrifying, and it's also what we need to live. And I want that to exist in plant and wood. Yeah, the quasi-elemental planes, I think are generally, like, I think that works as just saying, here are the base elemental planes. They bleed over at some parts. There are not individual specific planes that are made up of each different combination of element. It's just, yeah, there's probably some bleed over between, like, the plane of water and earth somewhere, where things are muddy rather than water or earth. But there isn't a specific place where that exists. You know? Like, it is a part of the elemental, like, climate, not a distinct location. And, like, also, a lot of it is, like, what something is not defining what, like, taking a lot of our definitions muddies so much stuff whenever you're talking about magic, because, like, no, I don't think that, like, metal is talking about alchemical metal, or not alchemical, like, elemental metals, as in, like, the periodic table of elements, most elements are metal. I don't think that it's fair to take that kind of information in there, because you're not talking about metals. You're talking about metal the concept, or earth the concept, which is way more open for interpretation. And it's kind of like, like, basically, I imagine, if you want mud stuff, there are mud elementals. They are horrifyingly dangerous in Pathfinder 1e. Like, oh my god. They can kill you in a couple of hits. Because they bury you in mud, and that makes you helpless, and then they can theoretically coup de grace you. They are crazy. But, then, like, I imagine what does an element mean is something that is very, very fiercely debated on Galarian. The same way that I imagine, like, I can totally see a bunch of wizards sitting around a room, arguing, almost coming to blows, over, like, the equivalent question of, like, the chicken and the egg, of, did we come up with, did we personally, like, are we responsible for the creation of spell schools, and then by us thinking that spell schools exist, we then group spells into schools of magic, or are spell schools fundamental, and that's just how magic works? Like, it is like meta-philosophy. It's talking about ideas and how does that work, which I find really fucking cool, because there's never, like, a right answer. Like, definitively there isn't. There might be a right answer for you, but that isn't universal by necessity. And yes, I may get into conversations about this kind of stuff with some of the GMs that I play with regarding their homebrew settings, of like, well, what is magic? Is every fireball that is cast the same spell, or is fireball simply a name for an explosion of fire? Of, like, the same strength? Is every arcane spellcaster casting the exact same spell, or do they just find a way to get to a specific output? Which is fun. Or, like, how do new spells get made? All that fun stuff that I love talking about. I know not everyone does. But it's just fun. Yeah, no, I need to look at the beginning of the Secrets of Magic, because I think I own it now. I think I got it from a Humble Bundle. But I didn't own it whenever it first came out, so I haven't looked at any of the lore in it. But yeah, it does sound like it's right up my alley. Yeah, texts on magic. About, like, the distinction between the different, like, not aspects, but, like, parts of magic, and that is what then distinguishes between the different traditions of magic, but then at the same time, it's like, well, how much of that is because, well, arcane magic can manipulate mind and matter easily, but it can still manipulate the other stuff. You're just not good enough at it, because I'm pretty sure that was Old Mage Jatimbe's way of looking at magic of, yeah, of course there isn't arcane and primal magic, there's just magic, which I think is cool, but it's like, it's fun. Like, I don't know. I, at some point, really want to make a character that I take, like, additional lore philosophy or, like, metaphysics on. Just so I could, like, just start rambling about this off the top of the hat to, like, our party's barbarian who just grunts at me. Because I think that's top-class comedy. Like, yeah. Also, I love that there are different... Oh, there's the portal. It's down here. I love that there are, like, the occult spell list is so, like, either, oh, yay, friends, or it's, I cast give trauma? Which is... yeah. I cast traumatize? Admittedly, every spell list has the ability to do that, but the occult list has the highest ratio of trauma spells to non-trauma spells. But that is going to be it for this stream, because I am very, very tired, and also should really get some food. But it has been a fantastic stream. Easily one of my favorites that I've done, and yeah, thanks for being here. It's been wonderful, and until I see you next, live a wonderful life. I did not time this well, so live a wonderful life.